Okay, apparently we are live and on the air, mate. How are you?
Apparently, in other words, you're not sure? We're not sure if
Huh.
we're live or not.
Look at this. We've got a question straight up, and I'll let you answer this. It's from Andrew Jamison. Guys, I'm wondering if you could explain CDS databases and the licensing, i.e. one database, etc.
Well,
You wanna
interesting question.
grab that one?
Because you can't actually license CDS.
And it's not actually a database, is it?
Well, yeah, I guess most people would probably equate it with, common data service is a, common database, I guess, would be a way to look at it.
But the service is the key piece, right? Because it's more than...
Yeah, because with a service, you can spin up more than one database.
It involves a lot of compute. It's three, as we know it right now, 3 different database technologies combined, and a whole bunch of front-end workflow and other forms of compute makes up CDS. So very much a service. But anyhow, I think the point here is around the licensing. And of course, you are the license guru, Mr. Mordue. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, to be able to avail yourself of the common data service, you would have to acquire a license that for a product that would run on the common data service, right? So you'd be looking at any of the Dynamics 365 customer engagement SKUs, PowerApps model-driven side would do that. I don't think Canvas will. You won't get access to CDS with your Office 365 licenses. You'll have to, it's one of the business apps licenses. I don't know if, for example, if you bought Forms Pro, which runs on CDS, if that gives you access to the common data service to use for other things. But if you don't have a license for apps to run on top of it, then it wouldn't matter. I would say the cheapest way right now, if that was kind of the question to purchase, you could certainly do a trial and see what it's all about. But the cheapest way to purchase probably would be the PowerApps. I don't know, but PowerApps standalone, or if the Flow standalone, both of them will give you access. I don't know which one, but I would, if it were me, I'd be looking at the PowerApps standalone, that $40, because that's going to give me the ability to make and build and stuff like that. But there's potentially less expensive licenses to run apps that you then build with that license, like things like that. They've got their limitations. I was looking at the list, by the way, of the Dynamic Community Gemstone Awards, and here we have a familiar name, Mr. Mark Smith.
Listen, I don't think that's me. As in, Mark Smith, as I've always said, is a bloody common name. And the fact that it didn't say NZ365 guy, I've never received an email saying I've won an award. So I think, although I got tagged in the post, I don't think it's me.
Well, I'm looking at all the other people that have been given.
And hang on a second. Is granite a gemstone? I can see ruby, sapphire, and emerald. They're all gemstones. But is granite a gemstone?
Never thought of granite as a gemstone. I thought of it more as a rock.
I think of granite in Minecraft. It's the hardest thing you can get down to, and it blunts your pick pretty quickly if you try to mine granite. In fact, I'm not sure that you can mine granite. It might be obsidian. I might have got that wrong. I don't know.
Well, I mean, granite would be appropriate because it's as hard as your head. Right?
It's pretty hard. Hard.
I don't know, looking at the other people that have been given that award, your name would not be surprising to see in that same list with some of our friends, Gus Gonzalez, Colin Vermander's in there, Rick McCutcheon, Seth Bacon, Beth Burrell. These are all folks that we know, and many more. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Let's not get too focused on that. Just back on Andrew's question before we digress. He was asking around how many databases. Basically, you need 1 gig of storage for each. Is it instance? Are we calling them instances these days that you spin up?
Instance is probably good. I think they're calling them environments, but
environments. That's the word I'm looking for. So basically, you need at least 1 gig of storage free for each additional environment, which would be another CDS environment that you could spin up. or copy of the common data service. So for example, a production, maybe a dev, a test environment, that type of thing. Sandboxes, those other environments would be, unless you'd put them into production.
You know, which is interesting when you say that, because I mean, you get an allocation with a license, but of course, if you just bought one $40 license, you're only going to get so much allocation. You get more with more users, but you know, on the cheap. And when you think about now, a gigabyte needs to be available for an environment, and I have to pay for that or have access to at least that much storage. And if I want to do a dev test production, I'm tripling my cost of that application for those other two environments, which could lead some people to decide, you know what, I'm going to save some money and I'm going to go straight from either dev to production, or, hey, you know what, I'm going to be a real brave asshole and I'm going to work directly in production.
Mm-hmm.
If I were Microsoft, I think I might say, you know what, you're going to pay a little bit more for production storage, but we're not going to charge you anything for non-production storage. If they really want to encourage best practices around ALM, you know, these are not environments that I can use to make money. They're environments that I use to build shit that I can put into the environment that I use to make money. I'm happy to pay for the one I'm making money in. I'm even happy to pay more for it. But you're going to cause a bunch of people out there to bypass best practices of ALM because, oh, I need another environment. We'll stop doing a test environment on this thing and use that for another production. And before you know it, all other environments will all be production, you know? So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It is going to be interesting.
You've just released a post around saying pretty much if you're on premise in the current environment we're in the world, let's say, for an example, one of the things we chatted about, let's say you're a law firm and you've decided to set up your own NAS and your own document storage internally, and you've just been told, okay, for the next 4 weeks, nobody's allowed to come to the office. Nobody can maintain your server infrastructure, that type of thing. If you're not in the cloud now, potentially a lot of businesses are going to be just royally, absolutely fucked going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us today are probably sitting there thinking through scenarios. You know, we think through the scenarios that we're most familiar with, you know, which is kind of, in our case, our industry. You know, and I'm sitting here in my apartment overlooking downtown Tampa at all these office buildings, right? That normally would be full of people. And all those people are sitting in cubicles, you know, doing their daily work that frankly could have been working remotely for a very long time. But, you know, management, no, that's not how we operate. If I can't have my eyeballs on you, how do I know you're working? You know, this mentality. And so they've been driving, using up gas, paying tolls, paying parking to come into the office every fucking day, climbing an elevator full of fucking people to go up to their floor, you know, and go sit in their cubicle and do a job they could just as easily have done from their dining room table. Well, at least here in the US, and I know it's definitely at different stages around the world, although as you and I discussed, I think the worst case hardship that is being put on people in any particular country will ultimately be what all of us have to go through. Lockdowns. I mean, the US has been slow, in my opinion, to move, in spite of their bragging about having been so quick. But they've been.
I love how your president says, compared to other countries, we're doing really well. Unbelievable. Wow, we're getting better. Like that guy, oh my gosh, he just does my head in how unintelligent he sounds every time he talks.
Well, and you know, it's one thing to say we're better than all these other countries, but we just got started. You know, let's see how this thing pans out over time. But so right now we're at a particular point in our country where they're starting to do some of what we're calling lockdowns, right? So city of New York, of course, with, you know, what, 5,000 people have died in the city of New York or some crazy number like that already.
Wow.
And so now that city's on lockdown, but just short of what you'd call martial law in that city about people going out. So here where I'm at in Tampa and a lot of cities, there's a lot of voluntary stuff, right? People are just not stupid. I mean, I'm not going to make my employees come in and risk the virus. I don't need to be told, you guys all go work from home.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of companies that aren't. They're going to wait until they're told to, but eventually they will be. And then we're going to have all these workers that used to fill up these office buildings now working from home. And, I was just thinking about, somebody was asking me about what I thought about the prospects were for my particular business in light of this, what we do. And that's really kind of got me thinking about it. And I think, you know what? I think, from a purely business standpoint, this is going to be huge for anybody that's involved in cloud computing. Because we've got all these companies still that have been dragging their feet, using every excuse in the book why they can't go cloud, that now are going to be wishing they had. Because if you send all your workers home and you have on-premise infrastructure, they're having to access it through VPN, which you never contemplated that much traffic going over.
Yeah.
I mean, the systems are just all it's going to come to a grinding halt. And then imagine the next level where your on-premise infrastructure is literally on premises in your space. You've got a server room, in your space. And at some point they decide to mandate that, hey, people can't work in these buildings. And if they can't work in the buildings, there's no reason to leave them unlocked. Let's lock up these buildings. Let's turn off the power. Why spend money on power of an empty building? And now how badly are you fucked as a business who decided, no, we're not going to the cloud. We can manage this better than Microsoft or Amazon. We're better. But they're all going to look like morons. As well they should. Frankly, I have no sympathy for all those people that for years were coming up with just bullshit reasons why they couldn't go cloud. And I've been hearing them for 2 decades now. What are you laughing at? What's so funny?
Well, so Eric's just said in the chat, good luck trying to get into the US next time you try to return after what I just said about Trump. I didn't even think of that. Fuck, I'm usually more careful. But yeah. What I did was I just chucked up a post from a Kiwi coming from China into New Zealand, returning to China. And it blows my mind because people are going, look, China has it under control. Like 2 months later, look at that. We're all going to be able to do this. When you watch that video, which is by a Kiwi guy who flew into New Zealand and the quarantine measures here and then returned to China and the quarantine measures, we're not even scratching the surface on containing this as a country. And we're one of the quickest countries to go into lockdown. Like as of midnight tonight, our country, which is only at the moment got 155 tested cases, no deaths, is going into lockdown for 4 weeks. Unprecedented in the entire history of our country. No one's going to be allowed to leave their homes for the next 4 weeks minimum, with an expectation set by our prime minister that it could be for 12 weeks. So 3 months of lockdown to contain this.
And even that could be optimistic. I think that's the real problem. Is the only example any of us really have to look at is China. And when this thing started blowing up in China, we were all sitting back with our arms crossed saying, oh, those poor bastards, that's terrible. That's just horrible. What did they do wrong? How come they're not able to contain this? Why is it going crazy? And now here we're all seeing the same thing happen to everybody else.
Yeah.
China, on the other hand, is coming out the other side. But as you and I were discussing, they've taken some really extreme measures to get there. And every one of those measures will end up having to be taken everywhere else too. We're all going to go through the same shitstorm they went through. We can sit back with our arms crossed and say, oh, that's too bad for them. That's just a fucking preview. We're all going to go through the exact same thing. Why wouldn't we?
Oh, Eric's a stir, man. He's saying there in the chat around, what about Mother Russia? How they seem to have everything under control. I was talking to somebody this morning that originates from that part of the world, and he said, Stalin always said, numbers are meaningless. It's the person saying the numbers that have the power.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours also, who's from that area and keeps tabs on that area. And he was saying that Putin And the government over there has decided to declare any deaths as a result of the virus as not being from the virus, but from the symptom. Like this poor person died from pneumonia.
Yeah.
So that they can, at the end of the day, later claim we had no deaths from the virus. I mean, we had a bunch of people die from pneumonia, but nobody from the virus. So it's all just freaking wordsmithing and wordplay and politics.
That's right. Whoever reports the data, right, controls the message.
Well, you and I were saying before we went on that in the US is a good example. Right now, decisions like lockdowns, border closings, restaurants closing, whatever is going to be done should not be made by a politician. And we're in a freaking election year now. So it's the worst time for the worst person to be making those kind of decisions. Those kind of decisions should have all been turned over here in the US to probably the CDC, which is our authority of the Centers for Disease Control. They're the national thing that deals with exactly this kind of thing. And you got, like you say, the scientists and people that know what's going on.
Yeah.
And but instead we got the politicians that are definitely more worried about economics, and the economic, what's going to happen to all these these companies when they're shut down for a period of time. It'll be interesting, because what's going to happen if we don't,
Yeah, I don't think we'll go to a police state. I think we're going to go to martial law. I think that what will happen is the military will take over. As in, like, and I'm just guesstimating here, but last week I said to my wife before our government announced restrictions, remember, we're just a little wee country at the bottom of the world. I said, I guarantee within 7 days, we're going to hear the word police and we're going to hear the word military coming out of the media. 2 days later, the police commission, an independent former police commissioner now is taking over the task force for it. And the military was starting to get mentioned. I said, now I'll give it 7 days and I guarantee I'm going to see military on our streets and roads. Guarantee it, without a doubt.
Oh yeah, we're not far away, I'm sure, from armed military walking the airports, walking the streets. I think that we're already seeing the blocking of entry from other countries, even inter-country, state to state. I think we'll start seeing some challenges. Right now, a lot of that is just being handled by the fact that the airlines can't fill up planes, so they're already reducing flights. In
Australia, it's happened. I think South, Victoria, Queensland, Tasmania, as far as I know, they've all locked down. So no interstate travel.
At a time like this, when you're looking at a virus like this and the way it's transmitted and the way it gets over, nobody has any business being away from home. I mean, I think that if you can show ID that you live at a destination, fine, get on this plane and get your ass home. We'd rather have you home than in a hotel somewhere. So get your ass home. But after everybody's home, and for now, even, I mean, I shouldn't. I mean, I can, but I shouldn't be allowed to go to fucking New York City if I wanted to go hop on a plane.
But so see, our government has said that's it. If you're not home now today, you aren't allowed back in the country, even if you're a citizen.
As of yesterday, I was looking. There are still 60 options, including connection flights and everything else, to get from here to Seattle today.
Yeah.
60 options for me to fly into a hotspot. I was in Hawaii this last week for my daughter's wedding. I flew out there. Nobody paid any attention to me. Nobody checked temperature. Nobody asked shit. Same thing coming back, and nobody asked shit in the middle of all this stuff. I don't know. Well, I think that one of the things I was kind of summarizing in that post was around this idea that I think that companies like ours, and a lot of the folks here that listen to what we're doing, both here and read our stuff, are in this business. I think we're in a pretty good position. I wouldn't want to be selling on-premise servers right now, but for cloud businesses, when you look at the move right now to remote workers, that is never going to go back to the way it was. There will be some bounce back after all this passes of people going back to the office, but there are going to be too many people working from home for too long that are going to like it. The companies are going to like the money they're saving by having people work from home. They're going to realize that all their worst fears about remote workers didn't end up being true. And it's never going to bounce back. So when I look out the window at all those office buildings that, you know, frankly, office buildings always struggle for full occupancy. Well, that's going to be, these buildings are going to be 25% occupied even when this thing's over.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. I saw the video the other day of one of the largest investors in the Hilton hotel chain. He's a chap in America, runs a venture fund that apparently is his fund is one of the biggest owners of Hilton as a brand. And he said his predictions is Hilton will hit zero when it comes to their share price. And he goes, if that can happen to Hilton, a premier brand, it's going to happen all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, they're already, you know, they haven't mandated yet hotel closures, but same thing as with airlines. They were talking about another big hotel chain in Hawaii where I was at, was saying that they cannot keep the doors open with less than like 15% occupancy, because it just economically costs them more to run the operation than they generate. So at less than 15% occupancy, with no particular hope for that to go up anytime soon, they'll literally close. He said right now they're just waiting for the last few guests to check out so they can close the hotel. Just close it. Yeah. Because it costs more to run, you know, at those kind of occupancy rates. And I don't think anybody right now is thinking, wow, this is a great time to take a vacation.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it is a great time to think about what's next and what's going to be the new norm for us and how we are all going to work. I mean, you've been in a job that's been working for home for years. I have as well. But I don't think that life is going to continue even for me and my type of remote working in the future. I think that it's going to be way different. I think that a lot of laws and stuff are going to have to change. I just saw that our parliament can't pass a law unless there's a quorum in the house of people physically there. Well, those laws are going to be changed, I guarantee, to allow people to do it via remote conferencing facilities.
Exact same question going on here, because it's also a law in the Senate that they have to be present to vote.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of them are obviously not present. It's not a good idea for them to all be sitting, you know, 2 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting, all the things that weren't contemplated. How do you picture changes in what you do daily? What do you think will be different in what you're doing daily? You kind of alluded to something.
So some of the things is that because there's so much negativity going on across all the social media channels and doom and gloom, there's like, my wife wrote on a whiteboard, we've got to have escape from screen time when there's no screen time.
Yeah.
So, I've vacated the city on Saturday. I basically packed up all my shit, went to my apartment, and I don't ever intend to return there in the foreseeable future or before our lease runs out. So therefore, period, not returning. So I've got, I've taken up some new hobbies that are physical based, and they are, I'm going to get gardening. I'm going to get onto building projects around my property. I'm probably, I decided that as of tomorrow, because lockdown officially happens for me tomorrow tonight, at midnight tonight. I'm probably going to start a daily vlog just on what my life is like now in this new state of being. One thing I've noticed in business, like let's just say, as a business perspective, I was talking with a colleague yesterday, and customer engagement, customers are not interested in talking about buying shit at the moment or sales or anything like that around software. So it's going to definitely affect our industry to some degree. Companies like, even I said to my wife this morning as we're driving in here to my mother-in-law's place, that I think that at the moment, Maslow's law of hierarchy is in full play in most people's psyche. How am I going to live for the next 4 weeks? What am I going to do? Fuck business almost. And what I've noticed is that in the customers, I'm talking about my customers that I am dealing with, there's we don't even want to talk about business at the moment. We're just trying to decide or understand whether we can stay alive. And two interesting stats came out in discussions with another colleague yesterday. Is one, most small businesses have operating capital for 30 days. That's it. If you're in the food sector, so we're talking about restaurants, anything like that, the average is 16 days of operating capital.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I think, and I mean, we've just heard announcements from James Phillips yesterday saying that with the Wave launch has been pushed out, that even the switch to UCI has now been pushed out to the end of the year. I think this is the first of what you're going to see more of. Currently, Microsoft have 50,000 employees working remotely. That the crazy thing is in Seattle, although Microsoft and the subsidiary is very much, you can work remote, you don't come to the same building. The way head office is very much everybody in the same building.
Oh, yeah.
And they've gone through this massive transition themselves. And
yeah, I mean, it's a massive campus full of people,
Yeah, shit's different. Oh my gosh, look at my courier's just arrived and they're bringing me parcels. That's cool. I can see that out the window. Awesome.
So we'll see. I think it all depends. There's people out there that are thinking that, okay, this will pass and it will pass relatively quickly. Maybe overly optimistic that this will pass quickly. At the other end, you got people out there that are thinking this is end of days.
Yeah.
This is end of days. So it kind of depends on where on that spectrum your opinion lands as an individual and as a business owner. If you're more bullish, it's going to last that long, then, and I've seen this with a couple of our clients. We've got a sports team, a professional sports team that is kind of shut down. Their whole league has been shut down for the foreseeable future. And now they're full blast ahead on let's get that migration done, because there's a big complex migration, and in the middle of season that was just going to be challenging. So they're taking advantage because obviously they have every expectation that this particular professional sport will not end as a result of this, and it's just a matter of time and we'll be back in business. So but then you'll see other people that will be, we have to conserve all the dollars because we don't know how long this is going to last. I think there are certainly businesses that our business will be affected by how our customers' businesses are affected. That's all over the place too, right?
Yeah.
Some of them will be very badly affected, and that customer is probably not going to move forward with any initiatives they talked about. Others, I mean, there will be businesses that will thrive in this.
I tell you what, the business is that's going to thrive right now. Web designers, people building websites, because I reckon a lot of companies have realized, shit, we should have been online selling our shit. What?
Oh yeah.
What were you doing only on premise?
Yeah. Web stores. Yeah. E-commerce. Yep. That'll probably be a good one. We talked earlier about the unique position that Microsoft is in. What are you giggling about?
I'm reading the feed of these guys in the feed. It's funny as.
Microsoft's in kind of a unique position here. They spent this last, I don't know, half a dozen years or more making this transition to cloud, and they've made big investments in teams and some things like that, without any contemplation that any of this stuff was going to happen, of course. And now this has happened, and you stick your head up as Microsoft, you think, you know what, we're in pretty good shape to serve some of this, to solve some problems. I mean, how much easier is it to send workers to go work remotely if they've been using Office 365? They can log in from anywhere and always could. Well, now they have to, but they always could, versus somebody else who's got some other solutions or systems. Teams has some runway still to improve, but what better time to improve? And again, like I said, I think this is going to explode the remote workforce, which will never contract back to what it was. So that's going to be, we look at solutions like the one we're talking to now on like Zoom, and talking about how it's had trouble, I think, keeping up with the demand. I mean, the demand has been huge. I don't think they have the infrastructure capability or certainly control that somebody like Microsoft does with Teams. If they get Teams, if they can get Teams right, man, they can own it. they can own it. Anybody that doesn't disagree, say something in the chat. I'll just tell you
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Honestly, I think Teams is going to go through a massive transition. There needs to be a whole bunch of new. It's almost like Teams need to do different things in different scenarios. I think, you know, if you're going to run a public broadcast, they kind of sorted that out with the live function. They're good at, you know, boardroom presentations, but I think there needs to be a model which is much more centric around, as I say, people are going to just have their computer screens. They're not going to have projectors and stuff. And that's going to be the daily way they work. And so therefore, even how, you know, at the moment, if you get a big group of people, they all get scrolled off screen and stuff. There needs to be the option for dual monitors, and you can put everybody's faces that are in your room over on another monitor. And a lot more smarts, I think, needs to be built into the application to if this is going to be the main people are going to work now. I don't think Teams was ever set up for that. I think it was designed for having ad hoc meetings.
Yep.
But not for being, this is the way we're going to remotely work from now on.
Yeah, I mean, just their name was all about Teams. Teams was for teams. It wasn't for the entire organization to run the business on. It was for teams. Well, now the team has suddenly become your whole fucking organization. You know, that's your team now. And by the way, all your client organizations are also part of this team. So your team just got much, much bigger. And I think we were talking about some of these events now moving to virtual, and these tools are okay for virtual events. Definitely not perfect. They clearly weren't designed with the idea that we're going to do large scale events online to replace large scale in-person events.
Yeah.
But that is what's happening, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
And Teams is not quite up to snuff there, but it could be. And I don't even know what it needs, but it wasn't.
I tell you what, like, here's another scenario, because you just mentioned large events and stuff. I think
Ken's out there brown nosing, basically just agreeing with both of us on whatever we're saying.
Thanks, Ken's Ken. A good guy.
Thanks, Ken.
Here's the thing. You take dynamic communities, right, with their 3 global summits a year, or 3 different geographies that run summits in. That organization needs to pivot at a massive rate of knots, and they need to get virtual yesterday, right? Because I think if they don't, there's going to be massive risk for the survivability of any type of conference organization that have been very much always in-person type of events. Here's an opportunity: pivot early, pivot fast, and you could own the next events world that exists, or you're going to become a statistic.
You know, when you think about the virtual events from the company who sends their people to them standpoint.
Yeah.
And you know, how you get these people that are, you know, begging management to, please, I want to go to this event and pay for it and this, that, and the other stuff. And, you know, one of the reasons that management ultimately agrees has nothing to do with the social aspect, that you're going to have fun at this event. The only reason they ever agree is because you're going to go here, you're going to sit in some sessions, you're going to learn some valuable stuff to bring back to us. That's my justification as a business owner, why I'm going to send you to an event, not so you can go party.
Yeah.
So a virtual event is massively more efficient at delivering that particular component than an in-person event. Yeah, you lose all of the social component, but as an owner of a business sending people, I don't give a shit about that part. Plus, hey, I just got all the content I was going to have to pay thousands of dollars for you to go to some event to get. And even if I still have to pay for the event, I don't have to pay for your fucking hotel. I don't have to pay for your plane ticket. I don't have to pay for your reimbursable meals and all that shit.
And all your claimable alcohol.
Oh, think about how much money people that send people to events are gonna save by going virtual. And now here's the other side of that. How about all these people that spend a shit ton of money putting booths at all these events?
Yep.
Well, okay, now you lost that outlet to get your product out there because there's nobody walking by anymore. So how does that work in a virtual events world?
Yeah.
Is that gone? Is there no way to, I mean, how does
potentially it is, right? As in, here's the risk, is that you just try to create the virtual equivalent of something rather than going, is there a different way to do this entirely?
I agree. And if you just try to recreate, then you get, like, I don't know, one of these, I think actually Jason with MS Dynamics World had done something last year. like a virtual conference where it was like you would log in, you'd walk down the hallway and choose. It was trying to actually simulate what a conference would look like. You know, there was like kiosks up with ads running, and it was almost like a virtual reality kind of a thing. Hey, there's Jason right now.
Yeah.
Maybe he can even talk about it. But while those platforms are not great, he's saying now that they're not great, there's the potential for them to be great if they need to be. Right now, they've been more of a novelty, but in a future state here where we don't actually have an ability to do live events, there's an opportunity for those things can be modernized. Yep, somebody can modernize those things and try and replace that feel of a live event. Or as you said, just forget about trying to replicate a live event. Instead, what's the best format? But either way, advertisers, I mean, this is probably going to be good for Jason's business, actually, at least because as an advertiser who no longer has the ability to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to build a booth and send all my people to an event, I got to get my fucking word out. And if I can't do it there, I still have to get it out. So I would expect, you know, I mean, maybe after this little shock time of people saying, I'm not going to spend any money because why bother? Nobody's going to buy anything anyway. But if live events as a result of this, just like remote workers as a result of this, you know, kind of becomes a little bit of a permanent change in the dynamic of how we've done things, you know?
Yeah, we'll see brand new ideas and brand new businesses, brand new market opportunities that will come out of this time. As in, I fundamentally think it will. I don't think it'll go back to how it was, because, as you say, when employers realize how much money they can save with getting a better, more tangible output or result, I think it will. I think our software, way we do it, what the concept of selling even, I think, is going to fundamentally change in a non-physical touch world.
Well, you know, I've been for years now.
How's Tinder going for you, by the way?
That'll be an interesting one we could talk about sometime too, is what is dating like in this world where nobody wants to see anybody or touch anybody and there's no place to go eat or drink or do anything.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Listen, let's have sex, but wait a sec, for 2 weeks, I just want you to be in quarantine.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just talk for 2 weeks and then we can fuck. Man, that would be next level.
Oh no, I already had some girl ask me last week what my temperature was. Wanted me to prove my temperature. Show me the thermometer. Oh well, shit, she wasn't getting hot anyway, so.
Mate, it's a changing world.
I have not sold in person in years. I mean, I've had, it's only ever the local customers that somehow or another, because they're local and they realize I'm local, are like, yeah, why don't you come over for a meeting? I'm like, come over? What the fuck do I need to come over there for?
Yeah.
That means I gotta put pants on for what?
Exactly.
I mean, sales, at least in our business, and probably a lot of businesses could, you know, has been online. It's been having people discover you online or impressing people enough to where they will refer you to other people. And then that transaction starts with an introduction, just like we're having right now. I mean, not always video, but sometimes. And I think we'll see more of that as people get, you know, kind of stir crazy of not seeing people, more people with their cameras on. But then it goes into a demo, then it goes into, you know, a DocuSign out there for them to sign, then it goes into implementation. And I mean, we've done $1 million projects with customers I've never met. I've never even seen them in person.
Yeah. Honestly, like Ken's hit the money on the head. I watched the Microsoft presentation in Barcelona virtual last year of HoloLens, and this whole idea that you can have a virtual meeting room and holograph in with HoloLens on. You can have your meeting boards and everything. I tell you what, as in for Microsoft, if they got that price point right, HoloLens might absolutely blow up unbelievable. If everybody now had a HoloLens in the home, shit.
It could solve that dating sex problem too.
Yeah, but you'd need a full holo suit, wouldn't you?
Holo suit, yeah, exactly.
Oh, trademark that. Holo, trademark that.
You know, I had talked about about that actually before all this stuff had happened in a different context when they're talking about the HoloLens and showing us the worker in the factory, you know, using a HoloLens to string a wire through something. And I'm like, nobody's going to pay fucking thousands of dollars and to equip all their workers to be able to do that. So it'll be a novelty until it gets down to a price point where, you know, why not? You know, I'll go buy. I mean, I'll buy cell phones for the whole staff. Fine, we'll go. Everybody gets a HoloLens. That's when it would take off. When the price point got, and frankly, if I were Microsoft, I'd subsidize the shit out of that thing to get it out there, because that thing could blow up if they got the price point down, and the price point will come down when it blows up.
Totally. And I just said in chat there, if the price point was that of a mobile, as in like an iPhone price point, I think then you'll have every home going out and buying them.
Well, it's getting closer right now. What is it, like $1,500 for HoloLens, and an iPhone's like 1,100. So I mean, it's not that much more. But when you think
it's
about
$3,000 for the latest HoloLens.
Is it? I thought
$299. $299. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well,
3,500. There you go. Or $150 a month.
Yeah, that's still a little. Certainly, I'm not going to equip my whole factory workers with.
No. And that's what I'm saying. If you can get it to the price point that schools, everybody have them, and every person has one. I don't know if you saw Jojo Rabbit the movie, and or I think Thor. It was done by, both these movies were done by a New Zealand director called Taika Waititi, and he put out a post yesterday. He said, if people use this in the next they use this quarantine period, the next 4 weeks, we could all be ripped, right? Well, all work out, plenty of time, no time. He goes, we'll all end up like the people in Wall-E. Do you remember that movie of that little robot up in space and all the people in it are big fat, you know, because they're just all in their virtual worlds. They're just big fat people.
I'm leaning towards the second. I think right now, I mean, you can't see me from the neck down anymore, so why bother?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point? I mean, yeah.
Ken, what are you saying? I have a quote for my company from this week. What's the quote? Yeah, gotcha. I see what you're saying. But that's the thing is, right, can they scream out the production of those? Interestingly, I think most of the HoloLens R&D or assembly is all in China. They got 10,000 staff in China, Microsoft on that.
So you and I were talking before we came on here that China is going to end up being the big winner and could potentially change the entire landscape of the world economy, because they were the first one in. They'll be the first one out. They're going to be the first ones to get back to work while everybody else is still closing their businesses down. They'll be opening theirs back up. They're going to lock their borders like nobody's ever seen. And they're going to see this as an opportunity to, you know what, we're going to take over every fucking industry that we ever wanted to take over while everybody else can't.
And they're set for it. They're set to do it. Honestly, you know, there's been a lot of different world powers through history, right? The Ottoman Empire, there's been the Roman Empire, etc., like this. And really, for some time, it's been America / Russia have been the 1 and 2 positions in the world, right? Because even Winston Churchill himself said at the end of the Second World War that really the third player, which he only put as 0.5, which was really only a half player, was the British Empire, because it imploded really from the start of the world. At the First World War, the British Empire started to implode. And of course, Europe has risen out of this. I think that this is going to be a change of the guard again. I think that I would be very surprised if Europe, the UK, and America are going to come out of this in any form of what they've been in the past.
Yeah. Well, at the moment, our dollar's still strong, which has got some value, but I think that's all artificial and won't last very long. That's just a lack of reality setting in on what's going to happen. But I think that we were all sitting there with our arms crossed, looking at China, going, "Oh, those poor bastards." So look at what they're having to go through. But now they're coming out the other side. They've taken a bunch of extreme measures to get there. Every one of those extreme measures, we will all eventually have to take as well, unless somebody comes up with a cure. But they're coming out.
Honestly, the science for coming up with a cure is at least a minimum of 12 months away.
You know, on the one hand, yeah, but you got to think right now, all
It's
of
more likely that it's going to self-kill itself and die out before someone gets a vaccine sorted, I reckon.
well, that's what's happened. That's what's happened in the past, right? Is by the time they come up with vaccines, the thing died out of natural, its
Yeah.
natural death, and that may happen again, which may be a reason why private industry might drag their feet a little bit. That hey, we can make a killing here if we came up with a solution before the thing died out, but if we don't come up with it until it dies out, we'll go broke.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. You know, they also the president enacted what they call the War Powers Act.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called, where he basically can go to businesses and order them to produce.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that yet because so far all the talk.
I thought he had started. He kicked it off. I thought the New York governor basically said, "Pull your finger out and use your authority."
Yeah, but he hasn't. He hasn't yet. They keep talking about that. Yeah, we've enacted it, so it's in place if we need it. But so far, private industry is stepping up and volunteering and doing all this stuff out of the goodness of their own business, and they're filling the need. So we'll kind of see where that goes. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
So how are we doing on time? We've got 15 minutes.
So what 15 minutes up our sleeve. Keen to hear from anybody either in the playback and or live now. What has changed for you, and what are your opinions around what's going to be coming out in the coming weeks and months? I certainly, I've heard a lot of rhetoric around people thinking this is just going to be a short-term thing. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows because I've not been in this game a lot. As in, this is new territory for most of us.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, I mean, we hear all the rhetoric about timing and all the reporters and all the news conferences are all asking the same question. When do you think this will end? Well, no, we don't have any fucking idea. I mean, I think all we have to look at really is frankly at the moment, China, who allegedly, I mean, again, we don't know if they're giving us all the straight information or not, but they seem to have gotten over the hump on this thing and are on the other side of it.
You go watch that video to see what they did to do it and what the difference is to what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, we're not experiencing shit yet. Oh, I mean,
social distancing is how they got over it. Yeah, they enforced it because they could. That's how they got over it.
Well, the reason other countries might get over quicker.
Who is Art K? What's your real name? Is your name Chris Cognita?
I think one of the reasons that other countries may get over it faster than China did is simply because we can learn from their experience. You mean, yeah, we didn't know. I never heard the fucking term social distancing before, until China figured out that's part of the thing is social distancing. And now we're seeing, okay, that apparently works. So now it's part of everybody's playbook. Lockdowns are going to be part of everybody's playbook. Quarantine is going to be part of everybody. It's all watching what other people did ahead of us that worked and what they did that didn't work. Apparently, I don't seem to be getting any examples from Italy. Italy seems to be all the examples of what not to do, at least from what I'm hearing. South Korea apparently is already supposedly flattened their curve before it even started, so they got real aggressive real quick. Interesting. And there's talks about these drugs out there that Art's talking about that can help. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I mean, that's that trade-off between the business side and economic side of hey, we got these things, maybe they work, maybe they don't, let's give it a try, versus the science on the other side saying, no, shit, we need to know it works.
Yeah. I just think
Art. You don't know Art? That's Art.
I don't know Art.
Yeah, we had drinks with him. Jeez, with one of these events, you and I sat with Art all night long. He bought our drinks.
When?
I'm just fucking with you. I'm just fucking with you.
Classic. What, I think Frank brought up a good point there. Let's stick with the Power Platform. What do you think this is going to impact? Impact really the consultants out there. Like, consulting is very much an in-person type thing, right? It's very
I don't know. I just went through-
hands-on. A lot of the consulting practices I've been involved in. How does that change?
I don't necessarily, I mean, I think it's old school. I mean, I just told you about, we're doing $1 million projects without ever meeting anybody other than, online like this. So I don't know that the handshake is as necessary today as it was. And as the next generation of people come into power, the younger generation that's taking over for the older guard that's retiring out.
Yeah.
They look at all this shit a lot differently. They don't, I mean, we're going to have a generation soon where they don't even shake hands. It's like, why are you sticking your hand out? What the fuck is that for? That's just goofy. And now with things like this that have popped up that are going to cause people to, I mean, handshaking may just become a dying art. Hey, remember back when we used to shake hands when we saw each other?
It's so hard not to, though. I had tradies turn up at my place yesterday, and it was so hard not to.
Just automatic. That hand comes out, man.
Yeah.
Out.
Hey, how are you? It's our standard greeting.
Yep. But we won't see that so much for the next generation, not just because of this, but because they have their own stuff. So, when you look at our industry of the people that are in it, a lot of us are used to working from home. I mean, a lot of developers, a lot of our fellow MVPs all work from home. Lots of consultants work from home. So we have a little bit of an advantage in that at least we already know how to do this. We already know how to function in this working from home environment. I'm not sitting here in a closet, that I just threw together because I got sent home to a place to go. I mean, I've got a whole office here that's built specifically, purpose built for doing exactly what I do, which is to work from home. I got all my gear, everything that I need. I'm not like temporarily, roughing it here to work from home like a lot of these folks are.
When was the last time, though, you were in a business like KPMG, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture, any of these type companies? They are not. They are on-site, on-premise. They are a body-dropping type business. They want to get as many consultants in the customer's business, physical business, as possible. That's how they bill, charge, that type of thing.
Well, and I never thought that was a long-term sustainable model in the future economy. Is that our business model survives because I put overpriced people unnecessarily into your organization to do stuff that lower cost people could easily do remotely today. If that was their business model, and it has been their business model, that worked for a long time, but those days are numbered. That business model, they're struggling with that business model already. The only people that buy that business model are other great big ass companies that have similar business models. So the biggest companies right now are all going to suffer the worst from this. I mean, every one of our airlines is going to go bankrupt. That doesn't mean they're gone. That means they're going to end up getting bailed out by the government. Auto companies are all going to go in the shitter. Same problem.
Yep. Well, they all went through that with the GFC, didn't they? All the auto companies.
Oh, the auto companies went through that once. Airlines have been through that. Hotel companies, we're going to see. We're all these big, Fortune 400 companies are all going to hit the wall over the next 6 months. They're all going to hit the fucking wall, and they're all going to need a bailout. And they're probably, a bunch of, the weak ones are just not going to survive, but they certainly just can't pop out the others, just like the banking industry that went to shit and it popped back up. It didn't pop up the same way as it was before because it couldn't. It couldn't. Yeah. The way you did business before, you can't do that anymore. It doesn't fucking work.
I like what's Patty saying here. I think an excellent opportunity for consultants or new consultants is to forge relationships by helping the smaller business that survived get back in. Yeah, honestly, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in this for just as much as the grief is going to create. I think the way people reinvent and do business is going to be phenomenal.
Yep. I think, and I can't remember if I said this while we were live or if it was me and you talking beforehand. I think you got the one extreme, which is people out there individually or in business that are probably overly optimistic, that are sitting there thinking, okay, this is all going to pass in a week or two. All we need to do is hold our breath and we can hold it that long. And then you got the people at the other end that think this is end of days. And it's all going to turn into anarchy. We're all going to be killing each other on the street for food scraps. So those are the two extremes.
Yeah.
So where you fall on that continuum,
in the middle, right?
Well,
Yeah.
everybody's going to fall in a different spot, right? Maybe you're a little
Yeah.
leaning a little more optimistic, a little more pessimistic. They're all going to, so depending on where you land will depend on how you come out the other end.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even suggest where to land. But when you think about the companies that are run by people that are leaning more towards end of days are not going to spend a fucking dime. They're going to fire everybody. They're going to sell everything as though they will never reopen, you know, as though they will never reopen. They're going to conserve cash. They're going to hang on to, you know, whatever they can hang on to try and last. It's going to be a hoarder mentality. And there's going to be a bunch of customers like that aren't going to buy anything from any of us.
Frank, stick with the Power Platform. Well, Frank, unfortunately, in the time that we're in these days, it's almost rude not to acknowledge what people are going through. And I've got to say, you know, MVP Summit last week, did it run for 3 days or 4 days?
Yeah, 4.
Can't remember. I attended 1 day because I had too many other important things like deciding where I was going to live for the next 4 weeks, deciding where my food supply, as I say, Maslow's hierarchy's kicked in for a lot of people. And that's just the way it is. And that's what we're dealing with at the moment. So things like, you know, the future of the Power Platform and where shit's going with that, it's, you know, it's still on my radar. It's still my day job, but it's kind of like not my number one priority at the moment.
You know, I think that, I agree that those laws will kick in and cause you to focus on what you need to focus on. But one of the things you need to focus on is how am I going to continue generating revenue in the business?
Yeah.
If I'm going to stay in the business I'm in. And right now, when you look at the tools that we have to bring to bear to generate revenue, the Power Platform is a strong tool. I mean, it's a way for people to do things at a lower cost than what they've historically done to solve problems.
Yeah.
I was talking with another person about you know, the willingness of people to accept right now something that is less than perfect, but is quick and cheap to solve a problem that historically they would have been prepared to hold the line. No, this needs to be perfect. We'll get more budget. We're not going to launch until it's all the bells, everything's checked. I think we'll be in a time here for a while where people will be like, you know what, we got bigger problems, but we do need this fixed, but it doesn't need to be fixed fucking perfect. It just needs to be functional. And when you look at, all I need is something functional enough right now to hold us over until later to solve this business problem. Power Platform's in a good spot for solving those kind of problems at a low cost, quick, cheap, down and dirty. That you're not going to solve those problems with Salesforce. You're not going to solve those problems with Dynamics. I mean, those are too big, too expensive, too long, they're not going to solve anything anytime soon. But with the Power Platform, I could solve a business problem for you in days. I can't do that with Dynamics. I can't do that with Salesforce. And people are going to be looking for one thing, they're going to have brand new problems as a result of this they didn't have before, that they're going to be realizing, hey, I need a solution to solve this new fucking problem. Yeah. It didn't even exist before all this stuff. And I can't spend the money or time with some big ass platform to build it out. So I think Power Platform's sitting in a good spot. I'm feeling pretty bullish. We don't have any.
I agree. And I think like what Ken's saying there, we're going to have to get bloody good at demoing via video, engaging with people via video, showing the power of the platform via video. And I still think it's going to be a great tool set to build whatever's next on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it was going to be a good tool set going forward, regardless, because of the things that you could do at the cost you could do them. A lower development cost or possibly no development cost. If you've got, you know, if you're using no code, you got people to do it. That thing had a huge future market. Again, game changing because of the next generation that's coming in, who's going to look at all of us saying, why did you mean people used to pay you to build this shit for them?
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Because we're talking about tech savvy, you know, younger people that are going to say, hey, I could take these tools and build my own stuff and solve my own problem. We're going to come to a day where they're going to go, you're going to be talking to some customer about some development service. They're going to say, people used to pay for that. They should had to hire people to do that for them. What the hell? You know, so it was going to have a huge future regardless.
One last thing there. I said Greg has said something around Zoom security considerations for business. I actually think that we've seen this big thing with GDPR and PII information. One thing that in crisis, a lot of that tends to get put onto the back burner.
Yeah.
And so, you know, even I think I saw the US government wanting to enact powers that allowed for a reduction of the strictness of privacy protection.
Yeah.
Security is one of those things that goes out the door often in crises like this. So it is going to be interesting. And of course, we should all be vigilant in that respect.
Yep. Yep. And Ken has just revealed the secret to my business success right there. So right on,
yeah.
right on the head, Ken, right on the
That's
head.
it. That's it. We'll
Right,
keep
guys,
live streaming as long as like I'm on
guys.
a wireless data connection nowadays, because the I don't see, even though I've got a work order in to get internet physically connected, I can't see it happening.
No challenges today, though. Whatever you're connected to today worked fine. No dropouts.
As I say, at my mother-in-law's place on fiber. So
yes. So
yeah.
maybe you just have to go to your mother-in-law's place to do the show once a week.
Well, till they say, like, we've got a term they've come out with, a bubble, which is who's the group of people you're allowed to connect with and who's not. And it's only meant to be no more than 2 people. So my wife's and my mother-in-law are in my bubble. So maybe we will be allowed to travel until, as I say, the point that they stop us doing that. So who knows?
You'll have to call your mother-in-law and tell her she needs to vacate for a little while because you need to come do the show. Exit your bubble so I can use it.
Thanks, everybody. Good having you on the stream. We'll see you same time next week. Ciao, ciao.
Most likely.